Our next speaker, sometimes known as Radical Russ, because he's almost as radical as I am. He also does NORML's podcast and has his own program on XM satellite radio, which is about as high as you get, even at the NORML conference. And so let's see, Russell, if you can be more radical than more.
I'll do what I can. All right, hello everybody. Like you said, my name is Radical Russ Belville, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Glad to have you all here. As you said, I am the podcast producer and blogger for NORML at stash.norml.org. I have a political talk radio show on XM Satellite every Saturday, 3 to 5 Eastern. And I'm also on the Oregon NORML Board of Directors. I'm Associate Director, and I host our bi-monthly TV show. So much for amotivational syndrome. What I want to talk about here, Paula Montana did a fabulous job, and one of the great things I get to do in this podcast job for NORML is talk to the smartest, most well-educated people in marijuana law reform in the country. And I've spoken with Richard on the podcast, and Paul many times, and Bruce many times, and we haven't spoken yet, but we will. I guarantee that. But I've learned so much in this time about how this all works. And while Paul talked to you about how the media lie about cannabis, I want to talk about why. Why do they choose to lie about cannabis? What's in it for them to make these stories and assertions that they make? So first of all, Paul brought you some headlines. I want to just kind of set this up by showing you a few other headlines that I culled from my daily audio stash Reefer Madness headlines. I have a feature called Reefer Madness where I take the stupidest thing they say and try to use some sarcasm on it. So here's our with apologies to Dave Letterman. Number 10, the Not Your Mother's Reefer story. This has been a big thing going on in the headlines, especially when we start looking in the UK as well, where it's it's pot 2.0. It's worse than your father's Woodstock weed. Hey, I saw the clothes you guys were wearing back then. It couldn't be that much worse. Number 9, marijuana grown indoors can sicken. Now, this was a story that came out about people growing medical marijuana and maybe using pesticides or bad stuff on it. And well, yeah, that's possible, but the headline doesn't tell you that. They just say, oh, if you grow it inside, that's bad. My number 8 one, medical marijuana can cause a range of adverse effects, say researchers. Some of these adverse effects included such detrimental things to your health like dry mouth and sometimes forgetfulness while you're high. Dr. Earlywine and I talked about this, like, if that's your adverse effects, then, no other medicine out there could be that low on the adverse effects compared to cannabis. Teen marijuana use linked to later illness. This is a continuing thing that's going on about, if the adolescents use pot, they're going to go psycho. They're going to go schizo. They're going to go crazy. Because, after the Summer of Love, there was that huge spike in schizophrenia. Oh, yeah, there wasn't. This one's for Lauren. Police. Pot smoking event at the UCSC Meadow. A moral slap in the face. How dare you smoke pot in public? Number 5. Heavy marijuana use shrinks brain parts. Well, at least it doesn't shrink anything else. I love this one. An attempt at not only a pun, but a French pun. Being French, I like this one. Marijuana's coup de grace to memory. And I think they were trying to make fun of coup de grace. But coup de grace is spelled grace, G-R-A-C-E in French. Coup de grace means the killing blow. When people were getting executed, if they were not dead, the executioner would give the coup de grace, the killing blow. They're making a pun on coup de grace, like G-R-A-S, which is like foie gras. Yeah. So, like what? A blow of fat. Number 3, this is a good one. Black girls using marijuana prone to riskier sex and higher STD rates.
Not white girls.
Not white girls, just black girls. For some reason, I'm not sure why. Number 2, oral sex and marijuana use is linked to throat cancer. If anyone's willing to fund the research on this, I am glad to participate. And this one from the UK, cannabis smoking mum stabbed herself to death. Okay, so that gives you an idea. So why? Why would the media want to portray some of these things that obviously anybody with any knowledge, like you folks out there, are going to laugh at? This is comedy. This isn't news reporting. Well, this gets into, why these make such an impact. And part of it is an idea of framing. And I'm going to get into this in the next slide, but George Lakoff, who's a great political scientist, wrote a book and talked about framing. And the idea of framing is that words don't necessarily mean what words say. Words mean what the context of the word has engendered over time. And so the Reefer Madness headlines, the reason they hit so easily is because they already fit a predefined narrative about us cannabis consumers that's been established since the Anslinger and Hearst headlines of the 1930s. And that's marijuana is a dangerous drug, and the people who use it are dirty, irresponsible, rebellious, immature, promiscuous, slacker losers who are slowly destroying their bodies and minds and are only motivated by their selfish desire to get high and are recklessly, I tell you, lying to our children in order to get them hooked on heroin. That's the narrative. That's the basic media narrative. That's the idea of what cannabis consumers are. Maybe not all of that, but a lot of those you hear in these headlines. So as I get to this, I want to talk about media bias. Why does the media do this? And a lot of times, especially on the right, they'll say, "Oh, it's the liberal media. It's the liberal media. The media is liberal." Those media corporations like General Electric and, Westinghouse and Columbia, these big corporations are liberal. There is no liberal media bias. Media is a ratings-driven, for-profit business. If they can make money on it, they're going to promote that. If it bleeds, it leads. You've heard that with the local news stories. If there's a wreck, conflict and danger, sell. Also, media are lazy. These guys have deadlines to make. They've got to get their story turned in, and they're going to go for what's easiest. What's the easiest story I can get out there? And then, of course, the Mr. Mackey line, "Good to bad and kind," right? It's already, this is a set storyline. So if, and rarely, like Paul brought up, rarely do we get two sides to the story, but if there are two sides to the story, they're labeled as anti-drug and pro-drug. We're pro-drug. Right? It's that same old media line between, when people talk about pro-life versus pro-choice. The pro-life people will call the pro-choice people pro-abortion. Nobody's pro-abortion, right? We're not pro-drug. We are pro-drug reform, pro-drug law reform, pro-harm reduction, pro-intelligent discussion of the issue. We're not necessarily pro-drug. And the other thing, especially when you're talking to local news, is they usually have that 6 on your side. We're on your side. We're going to protect you and your kids. So they're always going to come with some scare story, the latest danger from marijuana that you need to know about for your kids, right after this commercial. Right? They got to have that hook to get you to come back after you watch the commercials. So one of the idea behind this, again, I talked about framing, and George Lakoff wrote a book. Now everybody clear your minds for just a second and think of nothing. Now don't think of an elephant. And what did you just think of? An elephant. The idea behind framing is that, and what Lakoff says in this Don't Think of an Elephant book, is that by negating a frame, by mentioning a frame, by playing in the playground that your opponent set up for you, you've already done their work for them. Right? If you approach the drug reform issue in their terms, half their battle's won. And the idea of don't think of an elephant is, if I'm trying to not make you think of an elephant, I don't say, don't think of an elephant, I say, think of a rhinoceros. You're not going to think of an elephant if I say, think of a rhinoceros. So, go away, elephant. Every word evokes a frame. Okay, so when you have words, like when I said elephant, what are some of the things you think of when you hear elephant? Republican. Dumb. Memories, right? The elephant never forgets, that kind of thing. Circus animals, circus, big, right? Also Africa, right? All sorts of things that get brought to your mind by the innocent little word elephant, which really, all the word elephant means is pachyderm, big mammal. But yet we thought of Africa, we thought of memory, we thought of Republicans. That's what framing's about. Marijuana is that kind of frame. I'm going to get into this a little bit more. When people hear the word marijuana, it's already got a frame. Loser, slacker, Cheech and Chong, whatever, drug, right? Marijuana has that frame. Words defined within the frame evoke the frame. If I say, the patient smoked a joint, the word joint evokes marijuana. The word marijuana evokes drug, slacker, loser, hippie, dirty, awful, 60s, whatever. And I'm not saying these are bad things on our point of view. I'm just saying this is what the general public hears. Negating a frame evokes the frame. If we try to say something,